Leetcode practice. So in this video there are two goals. The first goal is to see how to solve this problem, and then you're going to do some coding work. And the other goal is to see how you should behave in a real interview. So let's get started. So in the real interview, remember the first step is to always try to understand the problem. If there is anything unclear, please bring up the question, and also at the same time you can think about some edge cases you need to take special care of in the next step. So let's take a look at the question. Given a non-empty 2D array grade of zeros and ones, and so an island is a group of ones representing okay, you have zeros and ones. An island is a group of ones representing land. Okay, one representing land. Connected four directional, horizontal or vertical. Imagine all four edges of the grade are surrounded by water. So find the maximum array of an island in the given 2D array. If there's no island, the maximum area is 0. Alright, so let's see. So for this given graph, you're going to return 6 because the broad ones are okay. So how many broad ones? So okay, there are 6, so it returns 6. But for the second example, it's going to return 0. Okay, so I think it yeah, it makes sense. The question itself makes sense. Let's see. Let's see if there's any constraints. So it doesn't seem like does it say that the grade could be empty? Okay, so given a non-empty 2D array, so it means that the grade wouldn't be empty, so we don't need to worry about that edge case. So other than the empty stuff, I cannot think of any edge case at this moment. So we should be good to start the next step, which is about finding a solution. So how to solve this problem? So I would say it is a DFS problem. So you just iterate through all the grades, and if a grade is a piece of land, then you call the DFS function to try to extend as much as possible. And during the time you extend, you may want to mark the corresponding land as 0 or another number. So essentially you don't want to visit the same grade over and over again, so you may need to use a special number. So for example, you can change the 1 into 2 to mark that you have already visited this piece of land. So in this way, the runtime is going to be let's say the grade is n by n, then the runtime is going to be O n by n. So I think we should be good to go. But one thing I think you need to make sure is that you want to make sure that whether the grade is immutable or not. You may need to check with the interviewer. If it is mutable, then we can make some changes on top of the input grade. But in case it's not mutable, then you may need to use a separate 2D array to keep track of if the grade has been visited already or not. So having said that, let's start to do some coding work. So in the coding part, we care about the correctness of the code, the readability of the code, and also the speed. So don't be too slow. So let's see. We're going to say, all right, I is equal to, let's say row equal to 0. Row is smaller than grade dot length plus row, and then column is equal to 0. Column is smaller than grade 0 dot length plus column. So we are going to call let's see, so if grade row column is not equal to 1, then we simply just continue. Otherwise, we will call, let's define a helper function. The helper function is just going to overload the current function name. So we are going to pass the column and the row number for this, and the return value would be so island size. Alright, so at the very beginning we should have the maxed island size defined. Let's say it's 0. So max island size is equal to max.max. So we can actually put the function inside so that we can say one line. Yeah, so that should be it. And finally we just return the max island size. So let's define the helper function. Let's say it's called max island. So return value is the integer. So 3 input parameters, row, let's say current row, and current column. So first, for this recursive function, we need to define the exit. So what will be the exit? If I would say if grade, so if grade, okay, so if current row is smaller than 0 or current row is larger than grade dot length, larger or equal to grade dot length, or the current column is smaller or equal to 0, or the current column is larger or equal to grade 0 dot length, or grade current row and current column is not equal to 1. So that's the time we are going to just return 0. Otherwise, we need to set grade current row and the current column. Let's say I set as 2. So the reason I set as 2 is that if you want to change the grade back, you can just after this for loop, you can just go through the grade and change all the 2's into 0. Change all the 2's into the 1. So but in this question it didn't ask us to just recover the grade, so just mention that nothing serious here. So we set this as 2, and then you're going to call the recursive function on top of grade. This is row minus 1, current row minus 1, and current column, and let's say we need to see size. Okay, so I need to define island size as equal to 1, because the current grade is a piece of the land. So island size plus equal to the max, the neighbor, which is to the bottom. So this is to the upper, this is upper, this is bottom, this is to the left, and this is to the right. So, and finally we just return island size. Alright, so yeah, I think that should be pretty much it. Let's see, so So after you're done with coding, you should actually do some testing. So for testing, you need to go through a simple test case and do some sanity check on top of the logic, and at the same time, explain how this piece of code is gonna work. But I think you're just going to briefly do. We are just going to briefly go through this piece of code using a piece of the simple example. So for example, let's say max area of island. Let's say suppose we are at let's choose a simpler stuff. Let's say we are at here. So we are going to call this function on top. I'm not sure about the number of this row or column, but I'll just refer to it like here, which is highlighted. So the current column and current row is within reasonable range. So, and it is also equal to 1, so we are not going to return 0, and we are going to set it as 2. So currently this one is set as 2, and the island size is equal to 1, so it is going, so upper, so when we call the upper, it is going to hit this if branch, and it is going to return 0. So the bottom, left and right. So for the left, when we call the left, it is going to recursively call the bottom, bottom, upper, left, and right. So upper and right are going to return 0. This is going to return 0. This is going to return 0 because we marked it as 2 last time, and this one is going to return. So it depends. So if this one has already been visited, then we are going to return 1. Otherwise, in here it's going to return 2. So, but overall, I would say the structure of this piece of code, it looks good to me. So let's give it a shot by run this code. Alright, so it seems to be okay. Alright, so it's wrong answer. Why is wrong answer? So input, if it is 1, then we are going to output as 0. So why? So if grade is not equal to 1, then we just continue. If it is equal to 1, we are going to go to the corresponding column and the row. So let's see, if current column is smaller than 0, okay, so I think I do have this one, which is a bug. So it should be smaller than 0, not smaller or equal to 0. So I would say this is more like a typo here. So okay, so now everything looks good, and we should be good about this question. So that's it for this coding question. If you have any question about the coding puzzle or about the solution, feel free to leave some comments below. And if you if you like this video, please help subscribe to this channel, help me to grow, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.